Hey everybody, it's Kitty Cat Creator here with a cat mat video. Today I'm going to be making a cat mat similar to this one. Sorry for posting this video a little later than usual. It was a much bigger project than I anticipated and it's going to be 2 parts. I hope you enjoyed part 1, the second part coming soon. First, start with ironing 3 2.5-inch jelly roll strips. This is our good side and this is our bad side. So what we are going to do is press firmly and then we are going to take out this crease by doing this. Pressing firmly and wiggling back and forth slightly. Make sure you take your iron off every once in a while so that it does not burn your fabric. Now we are going to take 2 of our strips, put them good side to good sides so we can pin them together. And only one side should line up, the other side does not have to. When I do this, I like to lay one down first and then put the other one on top of it. So then we are going to just take that corner and stick it through like this and then come back out like that. And it's okay for it to be sticking over the edge, but it will give your sewing machine some troubles when going over it. Then doing that again. And we are going to repeat this all the way down the entire strip of fabric. Make sure you keep the fabric even so that there's no bubbles, because if there are bubbles, then it will sew unevenly and the result will not be as well in the end. I have been making cat mats for probably 3 years now, and what I do is I donate them to our local humane society so that then when the cats go to their new homes, they can have something with the smell of the Humane Society and something that is theirs with them. So then it's not just like they're going to a new home, they have nothing that they like and they're like scared. But this can give the cats confidence. Next, we need to sew our strips together. To do this, we need a random color of bobbin and a random color of thread. Put these in by your sewing machine's instructions. Make sure you use both of them cotton or both of them polyester string, because both of them together don't mix well. We are ready to sew. For this, I'm going to use a 1/4-inch seam allowance foot. It automatically makes sure there is a 1/4 inch so that my project looks better in the end. Now I'm going to remove my pins and then I will press it flat with the iron, the same way I pressed flat the pieces to start with. So this is a lot easier than you think, because opening it, that gets really difficult. So instead what you do, you just barely pick up this top layer and then you just go across like this. And then you repeat that all the way down. And keep going up, because if you go straight, it will create a crease. And like before, make sure your iron is not on the fabric too long, because it may burn it. Now we are going to pin on our third piece. And once again, good side to good side, because then it folds out nicely. Line it up, and then the best way to pin this is to push it like this way. Because if you do it this way, then you have to take them out every single time, which is not very enjoyable. So you have to line it up and then continue that all the way down the whole line. I love how it takes like 2 seconds to unpin it, but then it takes a pretty long time to pin it. So this is the same way just as we did before. You don't need to backstitch because it's all going to get sewn into other areas anyway. It doesn't matter what color you use for the bobbin and for the thread because you can't see it in the crease. You want to just gently push it through, but these fingers are also guiding it along the edge here. See how the sewing machine is going effortlessly see how the sewing machine is going effortlessly over these pins? Now we are going to remove our pins, and I have magnetic pin cushion here, which is quite helpful. And then we are going to iron it out the same exact way as before. Now what we must do, flip it over, examine these two creases, and if they are perfectly straight, then we are good to go. So now we are going to cut our fabric. You want to cut off the raw edges, but to make sure you make a straight line, line on your measuring stick with the seam. They're lined up. Then you want to press very hard on this, but be careful, this knife is sharp, so make sure you don't slip. Cut along the line there, and then we have our cut. Now we must line up the edge of our fabric to this line and count 6.5, so it will be to right here. Line it up on the bottom and the top, and then we'll take our measuring stick and line it up on the bottom and the top again, so that then we ensure to get a straight cut. Hold down. So I messed up here, as you can see, so we're gonna cut it again. Press down really hard and cut that off. Now we have our 6.5-inch square, and we are going to repeat that 5 more times with the rest. Now that we have our 6 squares completely cut into 6.5-inch by 6.5-inch, now we must lay out our pattern. And I want this to be like a stair. I am going to start by laying out one single square. Then we are going to make the stair pattern of 1, and it will all come together in the end. So just simply doing this to lay this out, and then come like that. And then this last one will go like so. And then we have our pattern. Now we must pin 2 together. We must pin these all together, and then sew. First thing we must do to start to connect this mat together is we want to sew these like this. So once again, you want to line up these edges. See, lined up the best you can. And then you are going to just poke, and you are going to do the same thing across the whole thing. But what you want to make sure you do is stick it in these creases to hold them down while you're sewing over them, because otherwise your sewing will get lumpy and it won't look very good. And also like move around a lot. So then it won't be even in the end either. And then once we have done this, it is ready to sew. But I'm going to also do this one at the same time. Now I'm going to sew these together, making sure to keep these down the best I can. Now that I've sewn these two together, I'm going to iron them out flat and pin them to the next piece. So I should probably plug in my iron. That might be smart. 3 minutes later, the iron has now heated up. So now I am going to do the same thing that I did with the other pieces I sewed together. So now we have our pattern. We're going to sew these two together. So first we must pin it, same way we pinned all the others by lining it up. I'm going to flip it over because this side has these seams. My cat just jumped off the counter. So I'm going to, for this one, since it's not cooperating very well, start off by pinning the seams and then I will pin the outside. Set this one aside and go to this one instead. Now you can probably hear my other cat eating. We are ready to sew these. And they are sewed. Now that we have our two strips, we are going to need to sew them together to make one mat. In order to make our mat look good, we need to line up these seams. And the first thing we must do to line up the seams is to put these this way instead. Because if both the seams are going the same way, like how these are here, it's going to be much harder to sew them together and get an even line. We must iron both of these in. Here is the final sew of the top of our mat. Now for the big reveal. Okay, now the hard part begins. I hope you enjoyed part 1. In part 2, I will be teaching you how to make the border and really turning it into a mat. Part 2 will be next up.